Design, because it's inspired by Monet and his bridge. This represents the bridge, and this represents the heaven line. And then underneath it, we're kind of making a brush stroke, an impressionistic brush stroke of the bridge. So this is heaven, and then 3/4 the height of that is the man, and that's all the bridge right there. And originally I had wanted to use sago palm, but they got on the wrong truck and they won't be here until later today, which I needed them earlier. So we're using flat fern instead. It won't last as long, but it gives the same impression. Then we're going to use the tulips, and the tulips, I chose orange tulips because the color reminds me of the koi that swim in the pond underneath. And what we're going to do is we're just going to simply cut them short. We're going to cut the tulips a lot shorter than you would expect, just like this. Then on the leaves, we're going to curl them down and we're going to pin them into the kenzon, maybe poking them so that these flatter leaves look like maybe the foliage, the wider foliage of a lotus kind of flower floating on the pond. And so you can add the extra tulip leaves if they're nice. You can add them in, but you don't want that big stem sticking out. So you want to gently just carve out or cut out the tip of that so that you don't see it when it's in the arrangement. And then use the bottom of the stem where it's thicker. And you can actually take the tip of the tulip and you can penetrate it down into the pins and make a nice wide broad place of green and add those in. Don't add too many, you don't want to fill it up, but you can add a couple in each grouping. You want to add these so that they're half as, now I have to say tulips grow very quickly, and they this was at least an inch shorter when I put it in 2 days ago. So it has definitely grown, it's growing up. So you might need to tend to the arrangement, or you might want to just watch it dance around as it does its thing. But I would say make the tulips between half the height and 1/4 of the height of this plane of heaven here, and that will be the earth. You want to make 2 groupings, one in the front on the edge of the bridge and one towards the back or at an angle, kind of spilling out. Normally we never touch anything on our container on the edge, and you don't want anything floating in the water. Still nothing floating in the water. But if there are wider leaves, which is our next item we're going to put in, like the salal leaves, you can actually let them rest on the edge of the container so that they kind of make a plane or another horizontal design to kind of frame in your tulips. So you'll put in the fern, then you'll put in the tulips and the tulip leaves, and then the salal, and finally you're going to add in little groupings the beautiful color of this purple statice. And you're going to group them in a nice little group like that, and then simply take your cutters, cut them rather short, and put them in all as a unit, and just fill in little groupings in your design. Now your design won't look like mine, and that's just perfectly fine. But what you want to do is create a foreground and then a background under the bridge, swimming in the bridge. And this could actually, you could actually pull it back. You can see you can pull it back a little bit farther, and that would still be appropriate. Then if you have stones, you want to add your stones. If you have bigger stones, if you put them in the foreground, you'll create a perspective, and then add the smaller stones to the back if you have smaller stones, and kind of make a little, like a riverbed or a little trail inside. And then if you have some realistic little turtles or fish or little koi or frogs, or dragonflies, you can put those in to the design however you like, and just to give a fun look and a realistic look to your pond. So this is our design for the month of May. All secondary color flowers, green, orange, and purple, which just go together very nicely. So enjoy our inspiration of Monet's Pond for the month of May. To our May Moto Ikebana lesson, and today we're going to talk about Monet, because Monet was an Impressionist painter in France, and he built a garden and a pond in which to paint as his inspiration. He also was a collector of Japanese woodblock prints, and one of our students, Sue Smith, brought this, and this is a Japanese woodblock print, so she brought this. But this would be like what he would have collected, and so he had a passion for Japanese art. Now, when we lived in Belgium for 4 years, and when we were there, I bought a book. Our daughter was younger, and I bought a book called Linnea in Monet's Garden, and had a little doll you could buy. And in the end, I couldn't find a picture of the bridge, but in this book, there's a picture of how many people have seen a painting or one of the paintings that Monet has done like this with the bridge. Do you all seen that? Okay, has anybody here been to Monet's garden? No, okay, yeah, I mean, I have a couple.
I almost went.
You almost went, okay.
But somebody had done some bad things, some vandals had messed it
Oh,
up, and so I was in Paris and I got to see that.
okay. Wow. Well, this is exciting because we planned this book so she would learn about Monet's garden, right? And actually, in the book, it's about a man who has he's a gardener and he loves Monet and art, and he makes this little friend in his apartment building, and she wants to go see Monet's garden, so they take a little trip there, and they stay in this little old French hotel. Well, when we went to Giverny with two of our girls, we had read the book a couple times, and I called my daughter recently. I said, we're going to focus on Monet and the garden, and without prompting her, she says, oh, I remember when we were there. She said the whole thing came to life because on the stairs in the story, there's a cat on the stairs, and when we stayed at the hotel in Giverny, there was a cat on the stairs, just like the book. So she fully remembered the story, and she fully remembered Monet's garden and that little cat on the steps. So anyway, I will pass that around in a little bit for you to see. But the exciting thing is that if you Google Monet's Pond in Japan, you will find that in a prefecture called Gifu. Gifu is like a prefecture, is like a county or an area in Japan. And in the city of Seki, S-E-K-I, there is a shrine, and there is a irrigation pond that they created, and it had gotten overrun. And back in about 2014 or so, a couple garden clubs or people decided to clean up the pond. And then some other people got involved, another garden group got involved, and they decided that this pond, which was very clear because it had runoff from a nearby mountain, and it had stones in it, or like a special volcanic kind of a rock, which keeps the irrigation pond perfectly clear and clean. And so people started adding water lilies to it, and before long, someone came in 2015 and took a photograph of it, and it became an internet success. And 3,000 people that year came to visit this pond that's only the size of a tennis court. Now, the next year, 3,000 people per day began to visit this garden. And it's known as Monet's Pond because the water lilies and the koi look like Monet's Pond in France. And so it's a very exciting little place. So if you are interested, you could Google Monet's Pond in Japan, and this particular spot will come up with lots of photos that you can see. So that is really our inspiration for our design for today. Pick out one. If you find that the leaves are starting to curl or dry up, we're going to steal from another packet, okay? And then come up here and pick out